My name is Michael and I was a senior mechanic on the merchant ship SS Watertown. This story began in November 1924, when our ship was halfway between New Orleans and San Francisco. At night, during the shift, I heard strange sounds, similar to ghostly screams, coming from the depths of the ship. At first, I thought it was just a joke by one of the sailors, but the sounds became louder and undoubtedly more eerie. Rustles, groans, and whispers began to annoyingly sound in my ears, and I realized that something absolutely incomprehensible and terrible was happening on board. With each new day, the events became more and more strange and inexplicable. Some of us began to see ghostly figures that wandered around the ship. They were blurry and indistinct, but the fear they caused was very real. These ghosts seemed to summon us, forcing their story on us. We started investigating the history of the ship, and what we found out horrified us. It turned out that before this flight, SS Watertown was carrying the bodies of two sailors, James Clark and Charles Davis. They were fatally injured in a ship accident and died in great distress. Their bodies were transferred to the shore for burial. This information caused a shock to the entire crew. We realized that the ghosts of James Clark and Charles Davis had returned to the ship and were looking for something. But what they wanted, and why they appeared right now, remained a mystery. With each new day, the ghostly phenomena became more and more frightening. We saw shadows that roamed the ship, leaving behind traces of abomination and chaos. Fear became our constant companion, and the nights became hell on the decks of SS Watertown. The crew was crushed by fear, and each of us was infected with nightmares brought to us by the ghosts of James Clark and Charles Davis. There was no way to escape from this nightmare that seemed endless. We began to investigate the ship's past in order to find answers to the questions that were bothering us. We found the diaries and journals of the previous crew, and terrible events were recorded in them. James Clark and Charles Davis died in a mysterious incident that no one knew about. It was a dark story, and it seemed to haunt us. With each new day, we encountered more and more strange and scary ghosts. They carried with them an ominous message. Their voices were the whispers of death. They were trying to convey something, but it was impossible for us to understand what exactly they wanted. We performed rituals and purges, but nothing could stop the ghostly phenomena. Skeletons resembling death were everywhere, and each of us faced the ghosts alone. Our nights were filled with fear, and no lamp or candle could expel the darkness that enveloped us. The situation became hopeless, and the ship's captain, Johnson, decided to intervene. He conducted his own investigation and learned more about the deaths of James Clark and Charles Davis. It turned out that their deaths were related to an accident that occurred on board the ship when they were tripled in the cargo hold, and the ship's cargo collapsed on them, taking their lives. This information caused us even more horror, as we realized that the ghosts had returned to convey their suffering and horror before death. Captain Johnson decided to try to establish contact with the ghosts of James Clark and Charles Davis. He conducted special rituals and began to communicate with the souls of the dead sailors. As a result of this connection, we learned that the ghosts were looking for a way to convey an important message to their loved ones, whom they had left on the shore. The ghosts suffered and suffered, and our hearts were filled with compassion. We promised them that we would fulfill their last request and deliver their words and message so that they could find peace. After the ghosts had the opportunity to express their messages, the strange and terrible events aboard the SS Watertown began to fade away. The ghostly appearances became less intense, and the fear began to gradually dissipate. We felt that our mission was accomplished, and we helped the souls of James Clark and Charles Davis find peace. After some time, SS Watertown returned to the port of San Francisco. Our relatives and friends greeted us with great relief, but we never told them the whole truth about what happened on board the ship. We kept this story a secret because it was too scary to be told. With this story, which began with mysterious events and ghostly appearances on board the ship SS Watertown, will remain an eternal mystery of the sea. This is a story that reminds us that there are many unsolved mysteries and mysteries around us, and reality can be scarier than any fantasies. The SS Watertown is a story that will forever remain a mystery, reminding us that the world is full of mysteries and mysteries, and sometimes it's better for us not to know the whole truth.